Let's talk about the next addition to the Fuse Audio Ocelot lineup, Clipper. And yes, as the name suggests, it clips. If you have used the Fuse OCELOT Limiter before, you know how intuitive it is. My review of that one is linked somewhere to this video. Clipping has become an alternative to limiting, and here's why. It allows you to get higher loudness levels, and I found it to work best with very transient material. The trade-off? Distortion. This doesn't mean limiters are not needed anymore. I often use both. Even with a clipper in play, small peaks can still slip through, so I always finish with a true peak limiter to keep things under control. That said, Ocelot Clipper does come in with a built-in true peak switch, which is a nice touch. Would I still use a limiter afterward? Definitely, but it is good to have options. Clipping will introduce distortion, there's no escaping it, and in the world of plugins, distortion equals aliasing. To counter that, Ocelot Clipper by default has 2 times oversampling, and it can go as high as 32 times oversampling. This oversampling results in a latency of 1.3 milliseconds at 48 kHz at all times. But the CPU does change. From about 2.5% CPU usage with 2 times oversampling to over 20% with 32 times. I suggest you will go as high as your system allows. It really does clean up your audio in a good way. But if you even need more anti-aliasing, switch on HQ. This will enable ADAA on top of the oversampling. This is by far the most complete set of anti-aliasing options I have seen in a Clipper plugin. There are 2 ways to clip your audio with this plugin. The first is to raise the input level with the input dial. The second is to lower the ceiling. You can use just the output ceiling when you don't want to increase the level of the audio track you're working on, like for instance on drums with snare. The distortion can add a bit of crispiness, while at the same time you are chopping off. The clipping even can give the impression that it sounds ever so much beefier, simply because the sharp attack gets chopped off like with this snare. I rendered and normalized it for the ease of demonstration. Clipping on a mix level can really help if you need loudness and want an end limiter to work less. For this next example, I have OCELOT Limiter on the master bus, and I'll enable clipping on the snare and kick. Listen to what difference that makes. The snare and kick in the master sound a lot better with the extra clipping. Actually, the entire mix is more open, simply because the limiter has to work less. And I still get a proper increase in loudness on the master. Now, if you like the breakdown, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on the latest new plugins, and hit that little like button. This video is sponsored by DistroKid. Cover songs is probably one of the many types of songs you would love to do, but uploading to a streaming platforms is always a hassle due to copyrights and required fee because you cover an original song. DistroKid makes this very easy for you by offering the option to do this all for you for $12 per song per year when you have a DistroKid subscription. Use my link in the description to get 7% off of your first year on a DistroKid. There are only so many things you can do with a wave shaper plugin like this. But here is where Ocelot Clipper stands out. Most clippers don't give you much flexibility beyond hard or soft clipping. But this one includes positive and negative knee controls. By default they are linked, so you can dial in a hard knee for instant clipping or a soft knee for a more gradual effect. But when you unlink these, you get separate control over the two, and it introduces second harmonics to the usual third harmonics. Simply put, you get more distortion. You can put that to good use. With this next guitar, it translates in a sharper distortion sound. On this next already somewhat distorted bass, I can get a very sweet distortion sound. The different knees help to dial in that sound. Since Ocelot Clipper is part of the Ocelot range, you can find the same goodies of the OCELOT Limiter in this plugin. First of all is the delta switch. With this you can hear what actually gets clipped and what gets chopped off. And there's a 1-to-1 switch. This one matches the output level to the incoming level. This is ideal to hear how the clipping changes the sound. Overall, Ocelot Clipper is a tool that gives you clipping in the best way you want to have, with all the extras you will need. Try it out for yourselves to find out if it fits in your audio toolshed.